You ever get that feeling that everything's just getting louder? And I don't just mean the volume, I mean everything. Well, today we're going to dive into a really fascinating piece by D.R. Nair from Tiga.com that explores this exact feeling, this big cultural shift from a world of subtle melody to one of, well, overwhelming noise.
And this quote right here, this is the heart of our whole explainer today. It's such a powerful way to frame it, a reminder of what we might be losing. It really sets the stage for a journey back to a time that sounded very, very different.
So to really get a handle on this shift, the author doesn't start with a bunch of data or statistics. Nope, he starts with a personal memory, a story that just beautifully captures the whole essence of what's been lost. So let's step into it.
Okay, so picture this. You're at a festival, in the evening, listening to popular songs. For the author's family, this wasn't just passive listening. It was a game, a really cool puzzle actually, to find the classical foundation, the raga, which is kind of like the melodic blueprint or mood of the piece that was hidden inside the tune. This was music that made you lean in and really listen.
And this just shows you the incredible artistry that was going on. Composers back then were absolute masters, weaving these ancient musical forms into something brand new and popular, but it was still so rich with depth. For them, melody was the whole game. It was everything.
All right, now let's zoom out. The author argues that this loss of melody in music, it's not some isolated thing. It's actually a symptom of a much, much broader cultural trend. It's a pattern that really starts to emerge once you know what to look for. So here's the core idea. In a surprisingly short amount of time, our preference has shifted. We've traded subtlety and grace for sheer volume and spectacle. And this isn't just about what we hear. It's about how we experience the world. You can see this pattern pop up almost everywhere. First, let's go back to music. The focus has moved from these graceful, intricate melodies to a total reliance on heavy, often just overpowering beats. The tune itself can sometimes feel like it's just an afterthought.
And you see a really similar shift in dance. You've got these classical forms that take years of discipline, and now they're competing with cinematic freestyle moves that are all about immediate impact, not necessarily about that honed, deep skill.
Believe it or not, this pattern even extends into athletics. Tennis, for example, used to be admired as a game of touch, all about finesse and strategy. Now, it's so often just dominated by raw, brute force power.
And this might be the most relatable one for a lot of us. Marriage ceremonies. They were once described as these solemn, kind of brief affairs. Now, they've transformed into these huge, loud, multi-day spectacles where the volume is just cranked up to 11.
And this whole trend hits a really dangerous peak in our modern festivals. According to the author, what was once about reverence is now often a mindless contest of loudness. Rituals are performed with an aggression that has some pretty severe consequences, from pollution to, tragically, even stampedes. It's like devotion, somehow, is now measured in decibels.
So, after observing this pattern of just rising noise, the author pivots to the really big question: why does any of this matter? And he starts to explore the philosophy behind our culture's embrace of loudness.
This one sentence, this is the core argument of the entire piece. It's so simple, but it's a profound challenge to that whole culture of chaos we've just been looking at. So if joy isn't loud, then what is it?
Well, the author defines true happiness not as some big peak of loud excitement, but as something that resonates on a completely different frequency. It's found in the quiet spaces, in the silence that brings peace, and in the calm that actually allows hope to grow.
And that brings us right back to music. The great composers, they understood this instinctively. Their music had a soul because it wasn't just a wall of sound. It had spaces, it had pauses, it was allowed to breathe. The analogy he makes here is so powerful. Just as a subtle melody is what creates that feeling of bliss in music, the author suggests that it's grace and gentleness that create real harmony in society.
This all builds to a final, really personal conclusion. I mean, how do we find that quiet melody in a world that seems like it's completely forgotten how to listen?
So the author paints this final scene. It's not about protest or fighting back. It's about a personal retreat. Finding a quiet corner at home, putting on your headphones, and just actively choosing to step away from all the noise and the restless energy of the crowd.
And here it is, the final takeaway. And it's a beautiful metaphor for everything we've talked about. In music, in art, and in life, the deepest meaning isn't always found in the loudest declaration. A lot of the time, it's in the quietest whisper.
And so, the author leaves us right there with that question. Does this resonate with you? Have you noticed the vanishing melody and this rise of noise in your own life? It really makes you think, right? So, what do you think?